It's bad. Anime.
Hello, everybody. My name's John,
And I'm Rob.
and this is Bad Anime, the show where we're not doing one of those today. I don't think, right?
No, we're not. How this whole episode came up is funny. Let me dive into that real quick before we start tackling the first episode of Kamen Rider Black.
Because
So-
you texted me about this, and you were like, "We should do some Kamen Rider Black," and there was a lot of other words in there that maybe I just didn't read. But so maybe it's a good time to explain to me why you thought this was a good idea, and also what you originally said to me.
Yes, what I originally said to you is because this is Kamen Rider Black, a series from 1987, and I believe I have to double check if it was 2021 or 22. Amazon Prime, of all people, released Kamen Rider Black Sun, a dark, edgy reimagining.
Oh, is it still live action or is it animated?
Yeah, still live action.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm only like 2 episodes in. It's already ripped off some shows we've already covered. I'm like, we basically covered this show, and I figured,
Really?
and since we talked about Fudo PI, and I figured, because you know how live action and animation in Japan do this weird dance with each other, where one will inspire the other, and then vice versa.
Yeah, I feel like that is like the nice Japanese storyline trifecta
Media, yeah.
between wrestling, anime, and also live action. I feel like they all kind of have similar storylines, occupy that same space, and kind of play off each other a little bit.
Yeah, and then it's cool because you get to see them bounce across mediums. Because I think fucking Ultraman had an anime in 2020 or 2021, maybe 2019 even.
And
on
there
Netflix.
was and there was Tiger Mask, the pro
Tiger
wrestling
Mask.
centric anime, right?
Yeah, and that was the first one, and then
Based
they
on
made
that
several
character.
things since then, and so there's a big bouncing around here, and I wanted to originally talk about Kamen Rider Black Sun, like I said, because it ripped off, I'm just gonna say it right now, like the first episode was total Devilman Crybaby mixed with other stuff, and I'm like, that's not the show. So I sent you a big paragraph saying like, hey, I know it's live action, but we've talked about Fudo PI. Everyone knows what a live action nerd I am.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it in the lens of an anime because it's basically a fucking live action anime.
Right.
And
right.
And so I sent you 2 links. I sent you that, and I'm like, okay, you need some context to what the original was like. So I sent you like the first episode of the original Kamen Rider Black from '87. I'm like, yeah, just watch this one for context. We'll mention it for like 5 minutes at the beginning of the show. And you're like, great. So we're doing an episode on the first episode of Kamen Rider Black. I'm like, I mean, that wasn't my idea. I don't hate that idea. It just really wasn't my intention.
I mean, sir, you clearly skipped over all of the 3 sentences of context that I gave you, but fine, but okay. I really appreciate you just rolling with it. And honestly, to be fair, like I'm not twisting your arm here.
No. I mean, I've already seen this thing like probably 4 or 5 times because I've watched this series like I've said before on the show, finding live action shit back in the late 2000s, early 2010s was very tough because of the rights issues over here. They just weren't readily available on the internet.
Right.
Now, almost everything I've ever wanted to watch is on YouTube to the point where it's overwhelming, where I'm like, I haven't been watching any of it because this is all at my fingertips. I'm A, spoiled for choice, and B, I'm like, I don't have to rush. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
it's on
it's
the
here.
official Toei channel. I can just sit down whenever.
Fantastic.
Because back in the day, I had to download it. I had to find the torrent link or whatever and just download shit quickly before it got lost again.
Wow.
Due to rights issues. And now it's just all there.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. I was so shocked. When you sent over the link to Kamen Rider Black, I opened it up and I was like, oh, they have like all the episodes just here on YouTube. That's fantastic. You could just easily access them, no problem, wherever you are. In your living room, masturbating on a plane. I don't know why I said the second thing.
Well, no, you saw Kotaro Minami's face and you lost control. That happens sometimes.
He's a good-looking boy. He's a good-looking guy.
He's kind of an underrated stud.
Yeah, he's kind of a stud. He's got that bowl cut, but he's like, it's weird because his hair. He's tough. He's tough with the bowl cut, kind of like a Rock Lee, but like he's got a jawline. You know.
You know what? If you put Rock Lee in biker clothes, you basically got my boy Kotaro.
Yeah, and he was looking good.
Not a sentence I thought I'd be saying today. We're talking about something else where Rock Lee's name's gonna come up a bunch, but but yeah, no. And
yes.
so when we had the misunderstanding, I'm like, fuck, I could gab about Kamen Rider Black for a while because this is probably my second favorite if you're speaking on a technicality level, this is probably my second favorite Rider series of all time.
Uh-huh.
My first one is Black RX, which is the direct sequel to this one.
I was gonna say because I remember, and all that I know of Kamen Rider is based off of you generally, because I have never really traversed into Kamen Rider ever.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's been things that you've showed me, like
Fudo
you
PI.
showed me Fudo PI, but like also the one that's based off of
Yes,
which
W.
which W? Yes.
Yeah.
I just remember Joka. I just remember that.
Yeah,
It
you
just
remember
rings
that from
in my
my
brain.
childhood. And then I remember one point when we were in Tokyo, I actually got the video game Kamen Rider War Generations.
That's
and
right.
Then maybe like a couple months later, you're at my house, and I'm like, I just handed you the PS4 controller. I'm like, you need to play this.
Yeah,
And
it was like a Destiny Warriors, but
Dynasty, like basically
Dynasty
a Dynasty Warriors clone, but with Rider skins on tap.
It was fun as fuck. I just love like you playing as Amazon. Like
Yes, just clawing people
you
to death.
literally just jump so fucking high and then just torpedo everybody with your boot. It is fantastic. And then I don't know if he yelled this in the game, but in my brain I was always yelling Amazon
all the
incredible.
time. And that's super relevant because the reason Kamen Rider Black Sun got made is because Kamen Rider Amazon got a dark, edgy reboot in 2016.
Oh.
And this is an amazing story of how this happened.
Okay.
Toei, the production company, who made everything, their animation division handled DBZ, Naruto, etc.
Yep.
Their live action division handled Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. Anywho, so what had happened was Toei was having a drunken meeting with Amazon executives. I feel like I hear a weird buzzing sound right now. I think it's just my headphone. Fuck it.
I think you sound fine to me.
Okay, good. But anywho, so this was going on. This meeting was happening. And then someone at Toei jokingly said, it's like, hey, let's do a dark, edgy Kamen Rider Amazon reboot because we already have a character with Amazon in the title. And then everyone in the meeting stopped and said, oh, that's a great idea. And then Toei just went, how the fuck are we going to make a dark, edgy Kamen Rider Amazon reboot?
He looks so doofy. How do you make him dark?
Oh, they did. And they did it for 2 seasons.
Wow. Okay.
It
Wow.
was actually wildly successful.
Really? So they were like,
Internationally,
well,
too.
let's maybe just do this with everything else, I guess, right?
Well, basically what they said was like, hey, Amazon's not even the most popular rider over here. And they were like, because the original Kamen Rider's gotten remade a few times. If they did it in Japan, it might be seen as forced or tried at this point. It's like, you guys can't keep doing this.
Right.
So they said, who else was popular? Well, Black was the second most popular for a while, so let's just do a remake of Black.
Oh, who was the most popular, you think, in your mind?
Probably the original, yeah. The original,
okay.
Yeah, the original, because the original's always going to be, it's kind of like the Superman thing, where like, who's the most famous Superman type thing.
Right.
But it's weird in Japan because there'll be like peaks and valleys with Rider where one will gain like a huge cultural foot stamp. So basically imagine if like those random 1 seasons of Power Rangers, imagine one of them became wildly successful and everyone was talking about it.
Just randomly, out of
That just
nowhere.
happens in Japan sometimes.
Very interesting. I feel like that does happen on like a level here sometimes. Like I think, strangely enough, it's like whenever they do like giant PR things for a Power Ranger series in the States,
Yes.
that one I'm like, oh, this one's big, I guess. Like I think when Power Rangers Samurai came out,
There was a huge marketing push for
there
that
was a
one.
PR machine behind that. And I really
Yes.
haven't heard anything since, series-wise, TV series-wise, because they did have a movie, which
Yeah,
I thought was pretty good.
the movie in 2017 was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that was
That
great.
was the only problem. It was only okay. I've been saying this for years. If the movie was a little better or it sucked, it would have made so much more money. The greatest curse that movie had was only being okay.
Indifference.
And I'm gonna say this right
Absolute
now.
indifference.
And that's the thing. But in my opinion, as a huge Power Rangers fan, loved everything about the movie except the fight scenes because there was too much CGI bullshit nonsense.
I see. That was like weirdly enough. I'm sorry to take us on a tangent here because weirdly enough, it would give some more background into like where I live
Yes.
in terms of live actions.
Yes.
Because you're very familiar with them. You know a lot about them.
Yes.
I don't really know much at all, and I kind of
know,
chalk
that's
that
why
up.
it's great.
I know, which I kind of mostly chalk up to me just generally not liking it. Doesn't have anything to do with like, oh, I think it's like bad or anything, but I'm just like, oh, it's.
You just didn't grow up with it.
I just don't really like it. I watched some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers back in the day, but it wasn't really like my favorite thing. It was just kind of there. And as I kind of grew up, I just didn't really appreciate it that much. And I don't know, it just came back up with you. And this Power Rangers movie in 2017 was probably my favorite piece of media in that realm ever. I thought it was
which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I thought it was just very accessible for me, you know.
Well, like I said, like that was because Power Rangers is best when the actual story is compelling, which can happen. And in live action stuff in general, you can get some very compelling narratives. Like I said, the narrative of the Power Rangers movie I thought was really good. It's just those fucking fight scenes were just so much
visuals.
CGI nonsense. Yeah, it just threw me off entirely. I'm like, okay. Megazord, like the Zord fight scenes, you have to do a CGI. There's no other way.
Of course, right.
Transformers is huge.
Right.
So they proved that works. But when even they were fighting, like when it was like CGI Power Rangers fighting CGI like fucking putties, I'm like, guys.
It's a disconnect. Yeah, it is a disconnect. But like,
because,
that's
if
my
you
thing
wa-
with live action though. Like, it's always a disconnect in the fight scenes. Like, the Zords are great, but like in those specific fight scenes, like in this first episode of Kamen Rider Black, right? He's fighting these kind of like bug-looking guys and the spider-looking guys. I think the villains. Anytime it's like a live action villain, I just completely get out of the medium. I believe the protagonist usually. I'm totally cool with like the Kamen Rider look or like the Power Rangers look, but whoever they're fighting just looks so incredibly ridiculous and totally like a guy in a costume that I just can't stop thinking it's a guy in a costume.
I understand that. Yeah, you've been saying that point to me for years now.
That's just the one thing I could never get past with these.
Well, it's funny because once I put that, and you've proved that point yourself when you watched Fudo PI and you were like, this looks so cool. I'm like, it's the same thing but animated. And you're like, I know. So it basically it gives you back the suspension of disbelief that you didn't otherwise have.
Yes, totally. And I can get like how both are powerful and both are good and both are useful. But yeah, I definitely like from the Fudo PI episode, I just gravitated more towards like, oh, it's animated. So everything looks like it belongs, you know, everything kind of occupies the space that it should live in, kind of.
For me, I had the opposite like thing for me for so many years because I know intrinsically that it takes a lot of effort to draw shit and like really animate it well, but I'd have no frame of reference. You know what I mean? But as a human being who can throw a punch and a kick, not very well, I know how hard that is to do. When I see guys dressed as spiders performing all this crazy martial arts shit, or Minami Kotaro dressed as fucking Kamen Rider Black wailing on people, I understand how hard that is.
That is something that, you know, weirdly enough, maybe now that I've, I guess, matured a little bit. Not really.
Now
but,
that I've matured, I can understand Japanese kids' entertainment from the late 80s.
Absolutely. That is exactly what I'm saying. Because
but it's amazing because
No, I did see. I did think about that today when I just finished the first episode of Kamen Rider Black today, and I did see those spider guys. Like, I thought about it mostly in scenes where they weren't fighting. Kotaro, where they were kind of running around and like reassembling and jumping in places and stuff. I really thought to myself, like, wow, they're so good at being in character. That is so good. Because they all move like fucking spiders. Like, you could put on a costume, but you could be a bipedal human. But exactly. But they just all turn into like arachnids all of a sudden. I'm like, that takes a lot of talent. And I really appreciate how uniform and good they did it.
They really did a great job. And that's the thing. Actually, it's a funny trend in Rider that the first villain is always a spider.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the first villain is always going to be spider themed.
Because like Kamen Rider is generally he's like a bug. I don't know what kind of bug, but what
kind of like a beetle.
Beetle. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Because they all have that kind of big buggy eyes with the antennas.
Yeah, exactly. Bug eyes with the aesthetic. Yeah. Like
exactly.
They say grasshopper in the show, but it looks more like a beetle.
Grasshopper. Yeah. I could see either.
Either or. Like, I don't know much about bugs. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be a fucking like Weedle, I guess.
Well, actually, no. It fucking It looks Venonat is the one because
Venonat, yes.
Well, Venonat's clearly inspired by Rider. So like you see, it has the big bug eyes with the antenna.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that makes a lot of sense because his big bug eyes even also have those little like textured holes in them. Yeah. Kind of. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon came out a good like 15 years after the original Rider in 71.
Do you remember? I was having a conversation with a friend recently. Do you remember the name of the gym leader that used Venonat?
No, I do not.
His name is Koga, and he's a ninja.
Really?
Yeah, we went over a bunch of the gym leaders because me and my friend Miles, I think we might be gym leaders for Halloween this year. So we were kind of going through the names, like, oh, who will we be? Yeah,
I only remember Surge.
Surge is the fucking man. I love Surge.
I remember as a kid just seeing like the more militaristic aspect of his character. I'm just like, He's just a military bro. I like him.
Yeah, he's just like an ex-military guy who uses a small mouse Pokemon. Incredible.
But he was bigger than the other small mouse.
He
so
was.
therefore, yes, that was the whole point of the episode.
Thicker than the other small mouse Pokemon.
Well, if you just look back, the whole point of that episode was Pikachu has the speed.
Yeah.
Where Raichu didn't. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh. And that's a fucking New Japan storyline. It's like, well, he's stronger, but he's faster.
And Ash almost took the easy way out when he was like, oh, do I use the Thunderstone on Pikachu and evolve him to clearly make him better in every single way, stat-wise? No, I grind. And I press B during that evolution. That is what I do.
And you know what's so funny? Again, tangents ahoy. By the time this episode comes out, we'll have wrapped up Isekai month maybe a week or two ago.
Uh-huh.
And look at the difference in storytelling in like Japanese pop culture now, where the message was, don't cheat, don't max out your stats. Like if you with a cheat code, train harder. And how many of those fucking isekais are like, here's the cheat code, have fun?
How many of those isekais had the name cheat code in the title, or somebody say cheat code throughout the entire? God damn it! Oh my god. Oh god, we haven't recorded those yet in our day. We haven't recorded those yet, and I'm boiling with frustration at one of them.
Yeah, we recorded 2 of them. I know which one you're mad at. We recorded 2 of them already for Isekai month. We're recording 2 more today. We're releasing these in weird orders, and I love it.
Yeah, me too. But anyways, let's get to Kamen Rider Black, because I don't want that to be lost on us, because we did take a whole episode to talk about this one episode of Kamen Rider Black. All right. Honestly, pretty good, I gotta say.
You didn't even like. We usually like slow boil this, but you just came out and said it.
We do. I figured it's one episode. You could probably watch it in the time that it's probably the episode is actually shorter than this podcast, so you should probably just go watch it if you get a chance. If you're not familiar with the Kamen Rider series, it's a good piece of education, I think, especially for the time for '87. A lot of reason why you said when we'll do like when we had the misunderstanding, I'm like, okay, this can actually work because this is actually a pretty cool piece of like in terms of Japanese pop culture. It's a cool piece of history. Yeah, it's a good primer. I think it really gets us ready for anything else live action that we're going to get into in the future.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like I know how you feel about this, but maybe watching it again or refreshing your memory again, did anything new pop out to you from watching this whole episode?
I was watching with my girlfriend next to me, and she joked that the 3 hooded figures who represented the evil agency Gorgrum looked like all white versions of Palpatine, and I thought that was very funny. But
that's actually true. They also, another note for them, they
used the Force.
Yeah, they did use the Force, and also they did kind of look like KKK members a little bit, like with like the white hoods, and then they were like when Kotaro was getting electrocuted like a little bitch. They went up to him and they were like, "You are King Kotaro," and they brought out like another white robe, and I was like, "Oh boy, wow."
They're making him the Grand Wizard.
I thought I was watching Django Unchained for a second. Which is wild. But yeah, the whole beginning was very interesting because it kind of threw you into everything, and he's running from these guys.
But how cool was it seeing like that kind of like blue tinged neon 80s Tokyo? And
it was so cool. That was one of my favorite parts.
Honestly, what really got me this time around, again, being an adult to have a deeper understanding of children's entertainment from the late 80s Japan, some of the cinematography I found really compelling, like the shot where Koto was running down the dark tunnel and you see his shadow first before you see him. I thought that visual was striking. I was going
to say, that specific scene of him running in the underground tunnels of Tokyo kind of reminded me of very much like 90s Matrix style film. It was really cool. I was like, wow, okay, this is shot very well. And here I go again, adding a lot of education to Japanese cartoons. Look at this.
Yes. And I just blurted out. It reminded me of a lot of Kite.
Yeah, it did.
It reminded me of a lot of Kite. Some of like the cityscapes here. And Kite would have been several years after this. But I just was really compelled. And some of the stunt work here from I'm used to know the actor's name who played Koto. I forget it now. But some of his stunt work with him just like out of suit when he's jumping around.
Yeah.
Like, damn, this is not easy.
Yeah. dude gets pretty smacked around.
Yeah. He gets smacked around. He's jumping over barricades, trying to. He. There's one spot where he has to jump a fence, but he intentionally falls, and it looks painful as hell. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Kotaro, my boy.
Yeah, he did a lot of cool stunt stuff. There was one point where I think it was probably the funniest part to me of the whole episode was when what's the organization called? I
think it's Gorgrum.
Gokron.
I think it's Gorgrum.
Gorgrum.
Sure.
Gorgrum. Yes, it is.
Yes,
Gorgrum.
Yeah.
Gorgrum. And one of the guys like is using the force to like smack him against consistently against like a building or a freight truck, and he's just like smack. And I'm like, oh, poor Kotaro.
And there was one point they threw him into like one of those neon signs, and like it electrocutes him. And it's like, ha, you should have been dead. It proves you're a cyborg. And then they cut to like earlier in the story. So they tell this thing out of order intentionally.
Yeah,
I love.
they do.
And they show Kotaro and his we later learn it's his adopted brother, Nobiko.
Yeah.
They're both getting operated on. And I should give some context here what this actually is. Mm-hmm. Kamen Rider Black was actually a remake of the very first Kamen Rider from 1971.
Oh.
Because what happened was Kamen Rider became like Power Rangers a little bit, where like every year, like every couple of years, every year there'd be a new rider with a new story. Right. And they were like mostly standalone, but they'd have fun crossovers and shit. Mm-hmm. But then, they put the brakes on for a few years. They're like, okay, we need to come back to this because we're running out of ideas. So their intention was to do like a dark remake. So obviously Kamen Rider Black. And they did it because in the original Rider, it was the same scenario where a guy gets kidnapped, turned into a cyborg, then has to fight the evil organization that tried to program him. Mm-hmm. What they did here is they added a lot more drama to it, where it was the dude's father. It was Kotaro and Nobiko's father,
right,
who bursted in to try to save his sons from like being converted into mindless cyborgs. Mm-hmm. We see him save Kotaro, but they did get Nobiko.
Yes.
So that immediately you realize, oh, shit's getting rough. We meet it's a doctor who is it's a professor who is Kotaro's dad. Mm-hmm. We later meet his assistant and Kotaro's sister.
Yeah.
At one point, Kotaro's at the house. He goes to like his family home. He finds a note from his dad saying, okay, I have a lot of explaining to do. Meet me here. And there's this cool little scene beforehand where we see the family interacting, and we're like, oh, Kotaro's in a rough spot. So he's like, how do you say, like, yeah, Nobiko's been kidnapped by aliens and I'm a cyborg. Bye.
Yeah. How do you just say that to your siblings?
But it was cool, the cool scene, which I loved here. Like, it's a classic I don't know my own strength anymore scene. Where she throws him a glass bottle of orange juice. He catches it, but it's so strong he just breaks it immediately because he squeezes it too hard.
Yep.
And he's like, oh shit. And they're like, what the fuck happened? He's like, bye.
He just runs away, and she's like, you didn't even clean up your mess.
Yeah. And they're like, jerk. Kotaro meets his dad, and his dad's like, yeah, I'm sorry I sold you guys out to like, evil space cyborg people. And Kotaro's like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. Or no, more like, Dosan. What the fuck? Dude, he says Dosan so much. It was so funny. I learned a new Japanese word today because how many times he says Dosan, I'm like, yes, I get it. Dosan is dad.
Dosan, yeah.
Dosan.
Dosan.
That was so funny.
Is dad.
That's our next merch. Dosan is daddy.
Oh God. Anywho,
Great.
So all this is going on, and then eventually Gorgrum sends some spiders after them.
Yeah.
And Kotaro, he gets beaten up by the spiders for a little while, and a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
The biggest advantage of what they have with Japanese live action stuff is when they put it in dim lighting. Because it's a little more compelling, and also the costumes don't look as ridiculous because you can't really see as much of it. It's the whole Jaws effect, where like you try to hide your costumes imperfections.
Right.
So you see Kotaro getting thrown around a dark warehouse. He eventually Rider punches and Rider kicks all of them.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
But along the way, they do kill his dad, and it's like, oh Jesus, because the original Kamen Rider was not this dark.
No.
Both stylistically and visually speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning of the show, it's like, yeah, my dad's dead. My brother's been kidnapped. I'm a cyborg who doesn't know his own strength. I got to protect my family. But he's like determined. He's like, I'm going to keep fighting. Like they could have went a very woe is me, the world sucks kind of emo storyline. But in the 80s, that wasn't really as popular yet. They still wanted their character to be strong.
Be like a boss, be a protagonist, you know?
But in the 70s when they did it, was very much manly man, macho man. You know,
Right.
no
Right.
fear, no pain type of thing.
Right.
It's funny because the lyrics "No Fear, No Pain" were the lyrics to the theme song to Kamen Rider Kuga. I'm full of useless trivia today.
I love
But
it.
yeah, but Kotaro walks out. He's like, "Well, life sucks, but I'm gonna keep fighting, and I'm not gonna let any. I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure Gorgum doesn't kill more people." And that's where the first episode ends. And it's like, huh, I'm so glad I watched this again. I haven't watched this in years.
Oh, that's great. I'm
Yeah.
glad you did again too. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. I had a good time watching it. The highlights are the part
Yeah.
where he rider punched and rider kicked, because that was
Yeah.
so fun. That was so exciting.
I got punch.
Rider kick.
I love the way they throw the extra spit on the last K.
Yeah.
Right now, kick.
Kick.
You know,
Yeah.
you get a lot of extra like spit coming out. It's
It
great.
was good. That was really fun. Just like I like the outfit too. I like the Kamen Rider Black outfit. It looks really cool. It's like a little darker than the previous ones, as you kind of mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
It's very simple and understated. What they had is like the cool thing, like it's all black, but like the human parts, like where the elbows are and the wrist are, you see like this like dark brown underlying like fleshy looking thing.
Yep.
Because it's whereas the joints are all supposed to bend, but it gives it the greater appearance of him being kind of like an insect, which I really love that design
Yeah.
choice. And the only accents are a little bit of red and yellow, which is kind of cool. And you know,
Yes.
it was a well designed outfit.
Yeah.
His bike is intentionally different colors, which I find funny.
Yeah, it's like green kind of.
Yeah, it's like a real grasshopper, that one. Because the name was Battle Hopper.
Battle Hopper. That's right. Because then the creators could be like, look, he's a grasshopper. He's definitely a grasshopper. Okay, guys.
Because it
Case
wouldn't be a
closed.
Kamen Rider series if he didn't have a bike, hence the rider in his name.
That's right. Of course.
Except for Kamen Rider Drive, where he had a car.
it was a car. I remember you talking about this. Yes.
Yeah, it made
yes.
news over in Japan. It's like they're giving a Kamen Rider a car, and all the older generation like, wow, that's still on the air.
Really?
Because that was like 40 years into the franchise before they gave the guy a fucking car.
That's insane. They gotta do like Kamen Rider Train next.
No, they already did a Sentai Train.
Fuck. Oh, I forgot about that Sentai Train. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
are they like on a train the whole season, or do they just have a train, or is their Megazord a train, something like that?
Well, no, they're all inspired by trains, and their Megazord is train. But speaking of which, Kamen Rider Den-O, who was very popular, did live on a train. So
Cool.
The train had nothing to do with its powers, but he kind of got there.
Yeah, it was his baseline train.
I mean, trains are like a much bigger part of Japanese culture than they are ours. I mean, it's
true.
As like native New Yorkers, we're very used to trains and stuff. But you go into
Yeah.
other parts of America, especially in the middle of the country, like
It's a
trains
car
are used for
country.
shipping cargo. Yeah,
Exactly. Which is why like there's no, other than like New York, you're really hard pressed to find like a really good like metropolitan transit system, like Boston, Chicago, sure, but like
that's
elsewhere,
a good point.
like
Really, once you get to the West Coast, that evaporates.
it's hard. Yeah, because LA just doesn't give a fuck about their mass transit.
Yeah, no.
And like Texas, yeah, they have like a tram, I guess, but yeah, do you take it? Probably not.
Probably not. You probably use Uber somewhere.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about transportation in the United States today.
I'm glad we talked about a lot of topics in a very short amount of time.
We really did. But I think where I land on Kamen Rider Black is I had a fun time watching it. I thought it was really fun. Still not exactly the biggest live action guy. Maybe that'll change when we watch Kamen Rider Black Sun, because I'm expecting, since it's new, a lot of updates to be made to the medium since the 1980s. And I'm excited to see what goes on, especially in terms of specifically the visual effects and also the voiceover effects, because the voiceover was, I don't know if you know any background on this, but the voiceover was clear as day, as in like they definitely put in a sound file into this. They did not like record anything on site. That's what it sounded like, at least.
Oh, they definitely dubbed it in the studio afterwards,
Yeah,
just because
right,
you can't really mic the inside of the suit.
It's hard. Yeah, it's difficult. But maybe this time, maybe with Black Sun, we will see.
Yeah, and like I said, the whole reason we're doing this today, because I saw Black Sun and I was cautious. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. So,
Ooh, okay, that's exciting. Ooh.
yeah, so this whole episode today was a prelude to that. So we're not really going to end on a question today. We're just going to say, like, yeah, we really enjoyed. I mean, you enjoyed seeing what Kamen Rider Black was. I really fucking enjoyed revisiting it, and we're going to reconvene probably next week and talk about Black Sun.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time for Kamen Rider Black Sun. Get away, you little scamps. Go on home.
Shadow Moon.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you can leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.